Hey, are you ready to grow your business? You have checked out the number one resource for business leaders, entrepreneurs, startup founders, and managers. And we're going to teach you how to grow and scale your business with real actionable steps. There's no fluff in this podcast. It's just good advice. Check out this episode. If you're a first-time listener, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. And if you enjoy this episode, leave us a 5-star review. Today's episode is with Dana Mantilia, and I got to tell you, this episode is incredible. Dana specializes in helping protect people from cybercrime. She's incredible at what she does, but also what's really interesting about Dana is she has pegged it when it comes to building a brand on social media. Now, check the title of this episode again. She's not a social media marketer, but I think this could be another side hustle for her. She's going to talk about how she's grown her business and also done it in a way that's created sort of a digital presence, a digital reputation. I know I personally really admire her. She has such an incredible perspective on business. And most importantly, she's going to talk about why you have to make sure you protect yourself, protect your identity, and protect all of your vital information. Check out this episode. Here comes your good advice. Hey, thanks for checking out another episode of the Good Advice Podcast. I'm sitting down with Dana Mantilia. She is an amazing person, not only for her business, but also for just the shenanigans she does on LinkedIn. This is somebody who I just cannot help but watch everything that she posts. Now, she's not a digital marketer. She's not somebody who is a LinkedIn she's not going to sell you something on LinkedIn mastery, but she does master it well. In fact, she runs a business that helps people protect themselves against ID theft, cybercrime. She helps companies with their cybersecurity. She's the protection from all of those evil, nefarious people that you never see. Dana, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Man, tell me about that intro. I don't even know where I was going with that.
That was pretty good. Pretty good.
Well, hey, I'm just thrilled to have you on. And you know, it's funny for the listeners. I pretty much harassed Dana to come on the show because, again, Dana, I see your content and it's so funny to me how you create such just engaging, fun, optimistic, but relevant content to what your expertise is. And a lot of people, it's hard to do that well. I mean, some people, they'll post content that's motivating and it's encouraging, but it has nothing to do with their business. Other people post stuff about their business, but it is so dry, so boring. I'm always smiling. I'm always laughing when I see your content. You know, if we can just start there for a second, I got to know about sort of the LinkedIn journey, and then we'll dig back into what you do for a living, what your business is like. Tell me about how you got started on LinkedIn.
Okay. So I think a lot of people have been members of LinkedIn for probably like 15 years. Maybe not you because you're a little younger, but I signed up a million years ago, didn't do anything with it at all. And then started hearing that maybe LinkedIn about a year and a half ago was maybe a new thing, for business people to start promoting. So I started going on there and looking and was totally afraid to interact or anything or post anything, articles, even like something, nothing. I just sat there and watched. And then, I was watching a couple of people do some videos, especially like Shay Rowbottom. I love her. Yeah. And she was doing some witty little videos and nobody else really was. And then a couple of other people started. And then I finally said, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a video. But I was really afraid to do silly videos because identity theft is a very serious topic. So I didn't want people thinking, what is this crazy lady doing with making these funny videos about identity theft? But at the same time, it's kind of a boring topic. So I thought, well, if I could break it down into short little quick videos that are kind of a little bit entertaining, but they actually have a point that I always want someone learning something from the videos. Maybe they'll watch 20 videos and they'll remember 5 of them. And then after a year, maybe they'll remember 20 new little tips that are helping protect themselves and hopefully, a fun kind of way. So I finally got the nerve up to do a video. So I did my video, I posted it on LinkedIn, and I got no views, no likes, no nothing. I thought, okay, well, I got to keep going, right? So I kept going. And then I was just going to kind of post them a little bit here and there. And one thing realizing with the identity theft industry, the protection side of things is there's so much that needs to be learned out there and taught to people because I don't think a lot of people really realize this is a big problem and it's not going away. And so I figured the more education we could kind of get out there and get the conversations going, that identity theft is a big problem, so let's start doing some videos. And then I was getting a really, really positive response. People were saying, that they were kind of funny, that they were learning things. And so it's just kind of taken on a life of its own, which I love, because I really have fun doing these videos and coming up with these kooky ideas and everything. And the props, I love thinking of the new props that I can put into some of the new videos. And my kids think I'm crazy. Every time a new Amazon delivery shows up, they're like, oh, what is she doing now? So it's kind of funny.
Well, it's really, it's frankly, it's a competitive advantage. Your ability to talk again about your expertise area in a way that's engaging, but also leverages the platform really well. I think that's something that I don't know if you've just always had a knack for it or if you have really had to spend some time on it. I am curious, because what the start of your story is like so many business owners out there. They get on, they're like, yes, I'm going to get on social media. Yes, I'm going to make the post. Maybe they're even bold enough to do a video, which, the most credible, amazing people will still get nervous on their first video. And so they'll post it. Nothing happens. No one engages with it. Mm-hmm. It's like total shame and embarrassment. I just need to delete this. Or even I remember one of my first posts, I had somebody who literally they commented and they were like, please delete this from the internet. And I was like, okay, well, this is really motivating for my business. Yep. But so I'm interested because at that point, that's where most business owners quit with social media. They say, well, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter. I'm better served using my energy elsewhere. And yet you continued, and now it has this momentum and a life of its own where, just like I said, whenever I see a post come up from you, I'm like, ooh, yeah, this is going to be really fun. This is going to be engaging. I have fun following your content. What was the secret sauce or the step that got you thinking, okay, I have to keep doing this, keep the wheel turning? How did you do that?
Well, I think it was as people kept started to comment more and like more, and then people started private messaging me, and I was starting to feel like, and I still feel like I'm a little bit like a Dear Abby, where people tell me and some of these horrible stories that happened to them, so then we'll go back and forth and talk about some of the stuff, and sometimes people, they really are embarrassed that they fell for some of these things, and they feel better, I think, after we kind of talk about it. And it was funny. I have a video coming out that in my office, I had one of my assistants. I was at my desk and I see her standing outside my desk with her coat on outside my office. So I finally said, "Where are you going?" And she said, "I'm going to get that stuff you needed." And I said, "What stuff?" She said, "The stuff you were just telling me about." And I said, I don't even know what you're talking about." So she says, "You emailed me to get a whole bunch of stuff." And then we switched the conversation over to text message. And I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." So she went, she got her phone, and sure enough, somebody had emailed her saying, pretending it was me, and then saying, "Hey, let's jump this phone call over to text message," and wanted her to go to Walmart and get a bunch of gift cards. She was even asking, "Well, how do you want me to pay for these right now?" And the person just said, "Oh, just pay for them. Read me the codes off from the store, and then when you get back, I'll reimburse you." And the whole thing was a scam. And I said, "This is us. This is happening here in our office right now. This is crazy." So this is definitely happening to other people. They should not feel guilty or feel stupid or feel whatever silly that they fall for them, because they catch you right at the wrong time. You're not thinking. You're just kind of, doing your thing. And that's when they play off of your emotions. And the urgent thing. You got to do this right now. Okay. So it's that happened there.
It's always interesting how in hindsight, it feels so obvious. But just like you said, when you're in the moment, it's like, it's funny. I saw one of your videos where it was like, my son needs me to mail him some cash. Or no, my grandson. Wait, I don't have a grandson. But like in the moment, it's like, oh yeah, I got to do this. Like I got to, and there is that urgency and there is that, and it is so easy to fall into these traps. And especially, if we can maybe talk a little bit, we're recording this episode. We're right in the middle. I pray to God we're in the middle. I hope we're not at the start. Of this corona craziness. I mean, it is so devastating right now. And you would think that this would be the time for people to set aside their greed. And yet there's scams happening right now. I just saw a news article on people who are already trying to take advantage of people's stimulus checks and trying to get information from people. And it's just wild. It's wild what people are doing. These scams are always evolving, it feels like.
Yeah. And, there's a lot of what the CDC too. People will call up and they will say, or actually show up at your home and say they need to know the information about the occupants in the home, all kinds of personal information. And we've heard of them showing up at people's houses. And if that does happen to anybody, you need to close the door immediately and then yell through the door that you're calling 911, because no one from the CDC is going door to door right now collecting any kind of information. That's a scammer.
I don't know. I feel like they have a lot of free time on their hands, just to go to random whatever town and go door to door. So, but yeah, I get it. Again, when you're on the other side of it, it's hard to think objectively, and I guess a lot of people are trust rather easily, and not even from a manipulation standpoint. I know when I started my business, a lot of vendors and suppliers and people I chose to work with, I gave trust very freely because I was like, we're all kind of in this together. And I really felt like I got burned from that, just from the ignorance of thinking, hey, yeah, everyone's going to do right by me. And it's unfortunately it's just not the case.
And as far as those checks go, I can see a lot of scams where people will be calling up and saying that they need to know checking account information to deposit these things and all that kind of stuff. And then even if someone maybe is a little apprehensive, then they get bold too. They'll say, well, listen, you're not going to get your money then. You're going to have to wait another extra 3 months and then they're going to mail you a check. If you just give me the information now, we'll just deposit it. And so then people, a lot of these people are really, really looking forward to getting these checks. They desperately need them. And then you have someone who's taking advantage of the whole thing and then getting into their checking account.
One scam I wasn't part of it. I spearheaded a scam. I want to tell you about it. No, I got a phone call, and the only reason I knew it was a scam was because I got the same phone call about 3 months separate. But this gentleman calls and he says, and I think it's a recording, but he says, Pamela? And I go, no, this is Blake. And he goes, oh, I'm so sorry. Well, hey, I'm with the, National Police Officers Union, and I'm collecting. And I just ended up not donating, not because I hate the police, but just because I was like, this is kind of weird. I don't think I'm going to donate. I didn't think anything of it. And then I literally got the exact same call, same voice, same language, same wording. It was like a month or two later. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a robocall or something. This is like crazy. And it kind of clued me in like, man, even some of these scams, you wouldn't even think twice about it. You'd be like, oh, this is some gentleman just trying to collect some cash. Yep. And then you get taken advantage of, I guess.
Yep. And then the other thing too with these phishing emails that are going around is there'll be an email that'll say, oh, click here to see the latest map of the corona outbreak and where it's reaching now. And you click on that, and then now you're downloading malware onto your computer. And that's obviously not a good thing either. I had a gentleman the other day, he contacted me and somebody was in his computer. And I was like, well, what do you mean somebody's in your computer? He's like, they're in there. And I was like, ooh.
It's like a Derek Zoolander in there type of thing?
It's like, okay. And probably what happened was he probably clicked on an email and it downloaded like a keylogger thing because he kept saying every time he changed his passwords, they still weren't, even if, and no matter how complex they were, somebody was getting back into whatever these accounts were. And it's probably because they could see what he was typing down on the keyboard.
So, and just for the listeners, clarifying your business name, Identity Protection Planning. Tell me about, how did you get started in the business? How'd you jump into this? I mean, this isn't quite the thing that you hear someone say when they were like 8 years old, like, I really want to get into identity theft protection. Tell me a little bit about how you got into this gig.
Okay, so I basically grew up in the car business. My family always had a Ford dealership, and I have been running that for, almost 20 years now. So about in 2015, I wanted to open an insurance agency so then we could offer our clients insurance, auto insurance, home insurance. So we did that. And then I started paying attention to a little bit of the identity theft and was looking for a product that we could offer to them. But there was nobody out there that had any kind of B2B model. Everybody was direct to consumer. And so we developed a software program and came up with our identity theft product. And that monitors credit for any kind of alerts, social security number activities, has an AIG $1 million insurance policy, a restoration center to call, which I think that's the most important thing because when something happens to people, they're like, whoa, what do I do? Who do I call? So that really is a nice product. And then we developed a platform for financial advisors or insurance agents or whoever has an audience that wants to offer identity theft protection to them, that they can through a very non-technical co-branded website that they can direct their clients to. And so that's been working out pretty well. That's as far as the consumer product. And but one thing that happened when I started looking into this back in 2017, which was interesting, my brother was trying to get a health savings account opened, and he got denied. So he called. He said, "Well, why am I getting denied?" Nobody would tell him why he was getting denied. So he had to dig and dig and dig and dig. And then finally, he got somebody to tell him that he was on the terrorist watch list. So someone had stolen his identity and was using it for some not so good things.
So your brother's not a terrorist, just for clarity.
No, he's not. No, he's a little crazy, but he's not a terrorist.
Yeah.
Wow. So anyway, so that kind of intrigued me too, and to started doing my research and everything. So,
well, and if I may, listening to your story a little bit, was this sort of like serendipitous, where it was like, oh, I'm going to create this product, and oh yeah, we made this, or was because some of my listeners are entrepreneurs, maybe they're new business owners, maybe they're startup founders, and they're kind of what they want to offer. They're not even really quite sure what that thing is. They're sort of, it's very nebulous. It's like they're trying to get their fingers on it, and it just takes time and energy to really develop it. Did you always kind of feel like you had a read on the market, that you kind of knew what you wanted to offer, or was it more of like let's experiment and see what we come up with?
Well, as far as getting into the identity theft protection aspect of things, the more research I started doing and learning what a big problem this was and how much worse it was going to get. And it just made sense with knowing how much technology was getting more and more involved in our daily lives. And so then I'm very passionate about it too. I love learning about it. And not that all the terrible things have happened to people, but just, interested in all the different stories. And,
right. Yeah.
Yeah. You get it. So, so anyway, as far as, I don't know. I mean, and then I took a course, and that we had to do a cybersecurity plan, risk mitigation for either a company that we chose, or we could do Sony when Sony got hacked by North Korea. And that was a very interesting process to walk through. And I thought to myself, you know what? There's a lot of businesses out there, small businesses, that they have no cybersecurity plan whatsoever in place, and it's a little bit intimidating. They don't even know how to put a plan together. So as I was going through the process with that course, I thought, you know what, I'm going to come up with a very, very non-technical, easy to understand plan for a lot of small businesses. That's something they can implement easy. It's not going to take up a lot of their time, and it's not going to be crazy expensive. So.
Well, and totally speaking from a small business perspective, I think you're totally spot on. I mean, I had a guy who was talking to me about, he was like, we have a service that we can run your business to see where it comes up in the dark web, let you know. And I was like, okay, well, I don't really know what that means for me. Like, should I be worried if my name is in the dark web, or like, what is that? And so and this is a pretty common trend in business in general, where, what you're offering, you have such clarity as to why it's so important and why it's so meaningful. But from a sales perspective, that actual conversation of, this is why this is important, this is what it means for you, and this is why a small business owner would really care about this, I think that is challenging for anybody in any industry whatsoever. It sounds like that's something that you've always felt, or it seems like you've had a pretty good knack for, in terms of knowing how to communicate that, knowing what's important to small business owners. Is that accurate?
Well, I don't know if I've always known it. I mean, my thing with LinkedIn specifically was I really wanted to build relationships. And knowing, with me, with all of my business that I have all my gatekeepers all over the place. So to get to me through the phone, and, it's a difficult thing, because I'm getting, like any other business owner, you're getting all these calls all day long, people trying to sell you things. And I think LinkedIn is a place where people feel like they can get away from that. There's a lot of really big, powerful people on LinkedIn, and they're not getting pestered. And, we all see it when somebody makes a connection with you, and the first thing they do is they send you this 5,000 word thing and pitching whatever it is that they have, and they want to hop on a call, and you're like, whoa, wait, hello, how are you? Nice to meet you too. Let's take a minute here.
It's a kiss on the first date is what it is.
Yeah, it is. Exactly. It's like
high handshake with the kiss.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. So I don't think anybody really likes those. And what I did find too is with my videos and communicating with people, and by the time I do hop on a phone call with them, there's a comfort level already that they see I'm just kind of a regular person, and I like to have a nice regular conversation too. So the conversation goes a lot smoother than having to go through all of the whole, this is me and this is what I do. And,
Well, and I think going back to my comment on like the explanation factor, like where small business owners can really understand, it's almost amazing how much less you really have to articulate the ins and outs of your business when your prospective customer just trusts you. It's like
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
when someone trusts you, it feels like they're much more inclined to buy from you and not sweat so much the details of exactly, and not that people don't want to be informed, not that they don't want to know, but it feels like on social media especially, people just aren't sure. They are, in fact, I'd even say blissfully unaware of how to build trust. And it's the message you're talking about where someone reaches out and they even go so far as to, Tuesday at 2:00, is that good for you? Or they'll say, now, can you do Tuesday at 2 or can you do Wednesday at 4?
Right.
Yep. And it's so obnoxious because I know they went to like some sales course or some sales training that was like, go ahead and imply you're going to meet, all that jazz. But, exactly what you're talking about, these huge, massive inboxes that people send to you, or they say, hey, I want to lead with value. And then they send you like the paragraph with the click here to buy from me. And I'm like, that's not what leading that's not what leading with value is.
Right.
Interestingly enough, when I got I can't remember if I connected with you or you're bigger than me. So I probably connected with you, but I remember connecting with you and I got a message from you that was a video message. And I'm sure it's just a recorded message, but it was, what was really interesting was I thought that is such an authentic, genuine message. And I think I even replied, I was like, oh, this is really cool. But you stood out, especially from the trust factor. I was like, this is different. It's new and it's authentic. To me, that concept seems so simple. And yet so many salespeople everywhere cannot understand how to build trust, how to be authentic, how to be genuine. It's weird, the disconnect to me, I guess.
Well, I think some salespeople, they're in that sales mode. They've always got at the end of every conversation, every sentence, they're thinking, am I getting a little bit closer to that sale? And this, even when I sign up all the financial advisors or insurance people that are going to offer this, I say to them, now listen, we're not going to go out and bang everybody over the head and sell identity theft protection. This is the beginning of a long conversation. Then eventually maybe they're going to say, you know what, 6 months down the road, a year down the road, I think I do need to finally sign up for one of those plans. So this is a marathon. So that's what I figured is, you're not going to go, I can't just hop on there and start pitching this whole thing. That it just I wouldn't want someone doing that to me specifically with this product. And like I said, it is kind of new. So it takes a little bit of time for people to buy into it. I think if you ask people right now, do you think your house is more likely to burn down or that you're going to be a victim of identity theft? Everybody would say their house is going to burn down. And that's not true. But until we change that perception, so we got to work on it in the meantime.
Mm-hmm. And it feels like also just from like the selling perspective, not everyone has quite the patience they need for that long-term sell. It feels like the most valuable relationships, like any relationship, again, this isn't a hard concept. They take time to build. You don't become best friends with someone overnight, just like you don't acquire an incredible customer overnight. But it seems like, especially today's entrepreneurial culture and even small business culture, and I think it's part of the reason why people can't be patient on LinkedIn, whatever social media platform that they're on. But this patience, this willingness to, I will, and I hate to say work this customer, because it's not about like manipulating, or it's more of, though, it's hard for people sometimes to say, I will invest in this relationship and see where it goes down the road. In fact, it feels like a lot of people, if they can't make the sale right there, I mean, they'll move on. I mean, they'll kick the relationship onto the curb. I mean, it's just, it's an interesting challenge, especially in the entrepreneurial space today.
And I do wonder too, like the people that send those messages, those very aggressive messages, they can't possibly be getting a good response to that. When do they say, this angle isn't working, maybe I need to try a different angle? I mean, how many times do they send that message out and don't get anybody clicking on Tuesday or Wednesday, Well,
and part of me, I wonder, not to get like super in the weeds on like, LinkedIn, but to be frank, I've connected with some fairly large people who have taken that route with me, even personally. And I think, wow, you're this mega brand almost. I'm kind of shocked that this is your sales style. All this to say, I wonder, I think some people are even doing it in good conscience. That's just what they know. That's what they've been taught. Or they're just emulating what other people have done. And then also I get it, for any small business owner, cash flow is so challenging.
Yeah.
There's absolutely the urgency, especially right now. I mean, when this whole Corona thing hit, I lost literally my biggest client the day my daughter was born. The daughter was born. I'm at the bedside with my wife. I get the email and it's my biggest client. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. And this was before Corona. We'd even like kind of had figured it out, but their company had one of the first cases in my state. And I felt this burning urge to, I need to call everyone and sell everyone something. And it took a lot of personal, I can't be that guy. I can't be that person. I know everyone's struggling right now. It's tough, I think, not to give into that sense of urgency, especially when people really believe in their business. They love their business. They want to see it succeed and be profitable. But yet, in many times you need multiple months to bring in the consistent revenue and actually make it work. So I kind of get it from that perspective, I guess.
Yeah, I do too. I get it. People need to close the deals and get everything done. I do too in certain aspects of my life and certain businesses I have. But if you have the chance, I guess if you have the opportunity to play the long game, I think the long-term return is going to be greater.
So tell me, what's the long game for your business?
The long game for my business. Well, right now we have, the individual product. And then now with our new, I don't think we talked about it yet, but our new cybersecurity for the companies, that I'm really excited about because that's got a little fun to it. And it's called CYA, cybersecurity, and it's Can You Answer? And so we like to say that when the FBI comes in after you've had a data breach, and the first thing they're going to say to you is, could you please answer a few questions about what you were doing before this data breach to protect your customers' data? And if everyone's sitting there looking at each other and you don't have the same answer, and then they separate people and they start asking people and you're all giving different answers, that's not good, because that's when the fines and the penalties will just drive that business out of business. But if you can be nice and organized and say, yes, we can answer those questions, and show them your employee training and your plan and all the stuff that you have put together that is fun to put together and doesn't take too much time and is not too expensive. I think I'm excited about that. That's coming soon.
And I hate to be that guy to totally not even respond to what you just said, but just watching, you're so emotive as you do your impersonations. I just think you would have had another career in YouTube or something, as a YouTube star, if this hadn't worked out for you. It's just fun to listen to you.
Thanks.
But let me break this down, especially what you just talked about, the CYA program. Is this something that a small business owner would want to use?
I think so. I definitely think so. I mean, not to get too into the details of it, but it's got a little app that you put on all the employees' phones, because, a lot of people are doing work on their phones and sometimes they're not so secure. So it has a VPN on there. So they're always going to be, no matter where they are, Wi-Fi streaming or whatever, they're going to be secure. And it also scans the devices for any kind of bad stuff. Some of these apps that we download, some of them don't have good things in there. And even like the flashlight app, they always say that the flashlight app, which you think it's a flashlight app, there's some bad stuff in there. And then also same thing with your device, your laptop or your desktop. It'll let you put your files in an encrypted area, and it'll scan your computer to show you where all your credit card login information is. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here that people don't realize it's stored on that device somewhere. And so we'll show you that. Then we have the checklist to go through. Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Comes up with a grade and tells you what you need to work on. Then you go fix it. And then it's got some fun phishing and social engineering training for the employees, which really is fun.
Let me ask this, because here's what I'm kind of getting at is for me personally, it's easy for me to think I'm small time. I mean, what kind of customer data should I even be responsible for? And I'm sure there is a level of all of it. You should be, you should be careful with all of it. But for the small business owner, what advice do you have in terms of what they should be thinking about for customer data, for their own even personal data? What makes your service so important for that person?
I think it kind of, like I say, again, the non-technical aspect of it, it's making sure that the kid that works in the back room isn't on Twitter telling all of his friends, oh, I think we had a data breach at work today. No, we don't want that. We want to make sure we're all on the same page here. And even making sure that you have a third-party vendor that's accessing some of your customer data. Well, what are they doing with it? Have they told you exactly how they protect the data? Because then you'd be responsible for that too. If your data, if it's your customer, you're going to be responsible somewhere along the line for that. So it just kind of stops and gets everybody to look at different things. Is there data that you used to have that you no longer need? Where is it stored? And, back in the day, it used to just be, this is when we shred our documents. But now we have data that's on servers in-house. We have data that's up in the cloud. We have data here, there, and everywhere. And even with the bring your own device that now people do, they bring their laptop to work. and who's making sure that whatever security level's on there. So it's just a thing that I think that we all really do need to look at, no matter how small you are. And the big target is now the small businesses, because the hackers know that the small businesses are not IT, not that the big companies are, but they have departments that take care of all the IT and make sure they have all that crazy security, but the smaller businesses don't. And the hackers definitely do know that, and they're taking advantage of it.
Well, yeah, and I get it, because I mean, as a small business owner, it's like, well, I'm not big enough time to worry about data or security, and I think you're spot on. I'm sure hackers do a great job of taking advantage of that mentality.
Yeah, and even, let's say that they can get into your email system, and they watch the way the emails are going back and forth. Let's just say you had an office manager, and they know that, they can get in there and act like you and have her wire money. I mean, look at that example that I was giving you that even happened at my company, where one of my employees, this is what we talk about all the time, is all these scams, and she was just about to fall for it. I mean, Barbara Corcoran, she's obviously a bigwig from Shark Tank. Yeah. Did you see that? $400,000 that somebody in her office wired, and then went to go check with her assistant, and they were like, "What are you talking about? We don't have any money to wire." And then, found out that it went to an IP address in China, and that money is long gone.
Well, and one of the funny parts of that story, it's not funny. I mean, it's devastating, obviously, for any business, but they asked about what she was going to do with the employee, and she was like, "Oh, well, it was an honest mistake." And but I'm like, it's $400,000. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
But anyway, it really wasn't her fault. I mean, I get it.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, this has been great. We're kind of running out of time here. Tell me about, for people who are listening, especially people who maybe would want to learn more about what you offer for a living, what's the best thing for people to do? How do they engage with you? How do they follow you? What's the best route for that?
Well, if they're on LinkedIn, they can certainly find me there. But if they want to go to our website, and you can message me there, you can give us a call there at the office that's on there, identityprotectionplanning.com. And, And if we don't have something already available to offer somebody, we can come up with something that'll work for them, depending on their size and what their data they're keeping.
All right. Well, Dana, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
All right. Yeah. Well, for the listeners, hey, thanks for checking out the episode. If you've not subscribed to the podcast, what the heck are you waiting on? Click that subscribe button. Make sure you're following the content that we're offering each and every week. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, which why wouldn't you? Give this episode a 5-star review. I'd really appreciate it. That's all we have for you. Stay tuned. We'll see you later.